Here is Sloppy Steve on News Nation. Listen to this.
So let me ask you about Trump 2028. We have a 22nd Amendment, which bars anybody from running for a third term. Do you think that that's not a barrier for him, or how do you see that?
I think that there are many different alternatives that at the appropriate time after the midterms in 26, we will roll out. But I think there are many different alternatives to make sure that President Trump is on the ballot.
In other words, that ain't going to fucking stop us. We'll come up with some bullshit legal theory, or we'll make some nonsense point, or we'll do some stupid fucking legal maneuver, and then we'll fucking shut up everybody who disagrees with us, and then we'll fucking do it. Now, by the way, I think he's actually being too kind, because he's saying, oh, he'll be on the ballot. Steve, I don't know if you've been following this stuff closely. We might not even have an election, dog. And I know you'd probably fucking cheerlead that. But this is where these people are. You think, guys, it always starts with, oh, we're just trolling, right? The Trump 2028 hats. Trump goes to negotiate with Democrats in the Oval Office. He's got a Trump 2028 hat staring right at Hakeem Jeffries, staring right at Chuck Schumer. They walked in, sat down, and engaged in the negotiation. I would have marched right the fuck out the second I saw that. So, ho, 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 are you triggered? We fucking triggered you. Ha, 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 we got you. We're just trolling. It always starts like, we're just trolling, until you're not, right? It's always just jokes. It's always just jokes until it isn't. We followed this playbook. We know how it goes. We were there for the first term. We're here in the second term. I'm not a fucking idiot. I'm not a dipshit. I remember in the first term when Bill Maher came out and said, I don't think Trump's going to leave if he loses. I said, come on, man. That's actual Trump derangement syndrome. I was fucking wrong. He did everything he could to stay in power. He did the fake elector slate. He committed crimes. We had January 6th. He was still making phone calls after the violence on January 6th saying, don't certify Joe Biden. I want to stay in office. Bill was right. I was wrong. Now, I'm not going to make the same fucking mistake. He means Trump 2028. He means it. And so, Sloppy Steve, this is a top Trump guy, pardoned by Trump, right? He's out there going, yeah, we'll find a way. Jesus Christ, man. Jesus Christ. And guys, they will get away with whatever we let them get away with. That's what we need to understand. Trump even said the other day in a speech, remember? He's like, I expected some resistance. He was talking, I think, specifically about invading U.S. cities. He was like, I was expecting some resistance, but I don't see anything from the Democrats. He literally said that. And so I look at that and I'm like, oh my God, what are we doing? What are we doing? Like, we need an opposition party. We need an opposition party. We need an opposition media. We need people to cover everything he's actually doing. But instead, it's not that. It's fucking, I'm over here pulling out my hair, covering this stuff, following this stuff, talking about this stuff, because I feel like, shit, I'm like one of the only people fucking on top of this shit. And I'm just an asshole with a loud mouth on YouTube. Jesus Christ. So here he is, saying the quiet part out loud, and he means it. All right, guys, we got to talk about this guy, Peter Thiel. We've talked about him a little bit on the show, but... So this guy is, he's almost like a comic book villain of a billionaire robber baron. He's almost like a comic book villain. So take a look at this. This article just came out in the Washington Post. Inside billionaire Peter Thiel's private lectures, warning of the Antichrist and U.S. destruction, the Washington Post reviewed leaked audio from 4 off-the-record lectures the tech investor delivered in San Francisco over the past month that fused beliefs about religion and technology. So this guy did 4 lectures on the rise of the Antichrist and why we should all fear the Antichrist. Now, as you're about to see, and we'll go through it, if anybody is the Antichrist, it would be him. It would be him. So here, let's see what he says. Tech billionaire Peter Thiel recently warned that Swedish activist Greta Thunberg and critics of technology or AI are legionnaires of the Antichrist in private lectures on Christianity that connected government oversight of Silicon Valley to an apocalyptic future, according to recordings reviewed by the Washington Post. So what he's saying is, if you support any regulation on the tech billionaires and on artificial intelligence, if you support any regulation, you're the Antichrist. So in other words, this technology that they're working on, which is basically like trying to create a god in the computer, right? They're trying to create this artificial intelligence, this general intelligence where you don't even need to put a prompt in. It could just solve all your problems for you, cure cancer, do whatever. They're trying to create God in a computer, but they're saying that the people who are trying to stop these assholes from playing God, somehow we're the problem. The people who are saying, hey, let's preserve humanity and let's not fucking gamble on this and let's not make these huge data centers that pollute everything in sight and poison people and triple your fucking health, your energy bill. Say we're the problem somehow, but he's not. But it gets weirder. Here we go.
This is my very specific question for you, right? Is that you're an investor in AI. you're deeply invested in Palantir, in military technology, in technologies of surveillance, and technologies of warfare, and so on, right? And it just seems to me that when you tell me a story about the Antichrist coming to power and using the fear of technological change to sort of impose order on the world, I feel like that Antichrist would maybe be using the tools that you were building, right? Like, wouldn't the Antichrist be like, great, we're not going to have any more technological progress, but I really like what Palantir has done. So,
in other words, this is total psychological projection happening. There's total projection happening by Peter Thiel. You're accusing Greta Thunberg, a 22-year-old autistic activist who's desperately trying to get food and water and clothes and medicine to starving babies in Gaza. Somehow she's the problem. The person who embodies the best of humanity and, the revolutionary spirit of optimism and improving things and saving people and making their lives better and looking out for their basic needs. Somehow she's the problem. If we were all like Greta, we'd live in a much better fucking world. But no, somehow, according to Peter Thiel, she's the Antichrist. People who want to regulate AI. He didn't even say ban. He said regulate AI is unacceptable. And meanwhile, he's the person creating the tools of Antichrist. I hope you guys understand what Palantir is, right? I hope you understand what they do. They are supercharging the Patriot Act. They are creating a mass blackmail database on literally all of us. They already have AI programs that the Israeli military is using to kill innocent people all over Gaza. They have they allegedly helped create the Lavender AI program, which gave the IDF all these military targets where they lit up all these innocent people. The Where's Daddy program, remember that? That was, they would wait for a Hamas fighter to go home when he's with his kids and his wife, and they would blow them up at home, purposely killing the children and the wives. This is what they do. And then they bragged about all the military help that they're giving to a genocidal regime. This is what they're ushering in, bro. They're going to know where you are all hours of the day. They're going to know exactly where you are at all hours of the day. They're going to create a database that has a file of everything you've ever done, good or bad, right? And they're going to use that against you as leverage.
Frankly, our era of jackbooted thugs who can cover their face. Like, just put in perspective, my family immigrated here from Egypt. Both my parents did. And I remember being 13 years old. And my grandmother, at the time, I would get shipped off in the summers. I was born and raised in Michigan, but I was shipped off in the summers because my dad really wanted me to understand just the big contrast between the life I was living and the life that he lived. And so I'd go spend time with my illiterate grandmother who raised her 6 of 8 kids to whom she gave birth to, died before their first birthdays in a one-bedroom apartment. And I remember 13 years old, and like, I'm starting to get a little bit bigger now, and she pulls me aside and she says, "You can't talk about politics here." And I was like, okay. And as soon as we went downstairs, I used like the choicest words my cousins had taught me about then President Mubarak. And so I start screaming at the top of my lungs, right? Basically, bad things. I get pulled as my grandmother, like literally tackles me into the corner. She's like, "What did I tell you?"
Yeah, you could end up in a secret prison.
So that evening, I thought we were fine. I was like, nothing happened. I'm good. That evening, plainclothes cops come to the house. They're like, "Where's that boy?"
Wow.
My grandfather sold vegetables in a fish market. Toughest guy I've ever met in my life. I've never seen him afraid until that point. He's like, "Where's your passport?" So he like holds it up. He like brings it. He like literally walks it to the door like this. Like he's an American. And you can't do anything to him. And they left because I was an American. In 1998,
Wow.
my American passport protected my freedom of speech in Egypt.
Wow.
And I remember telling my dad about I was thinking about this run. He said, "You have to run." I was like, "Why?" Last time I wanted to run, he like told me I was going to get killed. I was like, "I got 2 kids this time." He's like, "Well, because for 20 years when I was growing up, I could say nothing. And for 50 years since I've been in this country, I've been able to say anything I want about whoever I want, wherever I want, and not have to worry about anything. And your daughters are not going to grow up in that world if we don't do something about it."
Jesus Christ.
So this is fascism. The difference between arrest and kidnapping is what makes the rule of law. Arrest is when the arm of the state has to tell you who they are, why you're being picked up, for what reason, and you have a right to challenge that. Right now, people who don't have to identify themselves get to pick you up for no reason, and you don't have a right to challenge that. That is kidnapping. The difference between arrest and kidnapping is the rule of law, and we are walking into an America, right? Actively running into an America where authorities can kidnap you. That's Egypt. And that's where we're headed right now.
I'm one of a handful of people that don't take corporate PAC money. I don't understand my Democratic
What about
Party.
APAC money? You take APAC money, don't you?
A minuscule percentage of my resources come from
I read it's like 800,000.
Yeah, but that's a lifetime number.
Oh my God, that's embarrassing. I'm pure. Oh, are you? You took 800 grand from APAC and you think that's pure? Well, that's over my whole career. And? Well, what was I supposed to think? It was 800,000 last Tuesday is when they gave that? Like, what? Oh my God, this is horrible.
Of raising tens of millions of dollars. Let me give you the right stat. The majority of my money comes from small dollar contributions. My last report, I think 76% of it came from people that gave $25 or less. Again, we could pick at each other, or we could do what we need to be doing right now, is joining in a chorus of conviction to condemn it. And again, I'm a child of civil rights activists. You think Malcolm X and Martin Luther King agreed on everything? No. But when it came to the fight,
they didn't disagree on genocide. That's sort of the thing, though, right?
They joined together and created a movement that was successful. And that's really what my focus is. And as the only person in the caucus that lives in a low-income black and brown neighborhood below the poverty line. I still remember when some progressives from the suburbs came down to protest me, and they were literally chased away by my neighbors.
So you see what he's doing here? He's trying to make it a racial thing. That like, oh, if you disagree with him taking money from AIPAC and voting for weapons for genocide, that's just because you're racist. This is like exactly how you shouldn't handle these questions. That's what Cory Booker is doing here. And by the way, I read the comments on the video. I watched the full segment and I read the comments. Everybody was like, "Man, this is rough. This is not right. Cory really fucked up here."
Because we are in an urgency every day. I see it. We are in an urgency where real people are getting hurt. When I go up and down in New Jersey, they don't care about the fact that I took 1% of my money from some group. They care about what are you doing to restore my health care?
I think the Democratic base feels like there is a disconnect. We hear you, like when you did your 25-hour speech, I was like, go, Cory, I love this. That is amazing. And then there's a photo shoot with you with Benjamin Netanyahu. And I was just like, what in the actual fuck? Like, how can he do that? It was heartbreaking. I felt betrayed.
Yeah.
And hang on. And that doesn't just happen in an echo chamber. Democrats like you, where the base, we should make each other better. It's not a purity test. We want credible messengers, because when we are down the middle, beholden to corporate interests, we leave this vacuum. And that's how fascism has flourished. For myself and a lot of our listeners, when I saw the picture with Benjamin Netanyahu, I felt like it diminished your 25 hours. That's how it felt to me.
You're hard. And this is the future of the party? Well, the answer is yes, it is the future of the party, because this is what Trump has brought us. What Trump has done is made it so that young people who look up to him, young Republicans, they now think it is cool, it is correct, it is smart, it is helpful to be catty, to be petty, to be vindictive, to want revenge, to be a bad person, to vice signal all the time. Like, all the old school things that we were all taught are how to act in the world. Like, hey, be honest, have integrity, be loyal, tell the truth, care about others, believe in equality as a virtue, right? Like, all those things are now out the fucking window. Be a petty, selfish, narcissistic, self-obsessed prick and crush anybody and everybody who mildly fucking disagrees with you. And this is now we're at the place where the group chats leak. These people are fucking praising Hitler and saying we should rape people, right? And they go, how dare this person leak it? We're going to ruin their lives. Again, only further proving that you guys belong nowhere near polite society. Get the fuck out. You belong nowhere near polite society, literally nowhere near it. It's absolutely disgusting that there wasn't like a wake-up moment here over this shit. Let's jump into it. This is the picture of what happened, as you could see. President Donald Trump has launched another lethal strike on a fifth alleged drug smuggling boat from Venezuela, killing 6 people, but once again offering no evidence of who or what was on board. Amid growing international skepticism about the strikes, the president released a video on Tuesday showing a boat being blown up in international waters, taking the total number of people killed by the Trump administration as part of its campaign against narco-terrorists to 27 in 6 weeks. 27 people murdered in 6 weeks. 5 attacks on 5 different boats. One of them was a Colombian boat. The other 4, I believe, were Venezuelan boats. Zero evidence that they're narco-terrorists. What does that even mean? What's a narco-terrorist? I'm going to go blow up a club, but for the love of cocaine? Like, what's a narco-terrorist? I'm serious when I ask that question. Because they try to, I told you that this was what they were going to do. They were marrying together the war on terror with the war on drugs. They're marrying them together. So now the same lethality that was brought to the war on terror, they're bringing that to the war on drugs. So now if you're just even if you're just smuggling the drugs in on a tiny fishing boat, they say, we get to murder you, and that's okay. That's how they're thinking about it. That is a terrifying thing. J.D. Vance joked the other day about, I wouldn't be on a boat in the Caribbean right now if I were you. You're casually joking about extrajudicial murder that you're taking part in. So understand something. I want every single Democrat out there to pay attention and fucking take notes, because they need to be prosecuted for this shit when they're gone. They have to. We're not doing that bullshit, the thing Obama did where he goes, we look forward, we don't look backwards, so we're not going to go after Bush or Cheney for the torture and the illegal wars. We can't fucking do that again. We have to lay the precedent that the law matters. By the way, there is not even a stretch of an argument that what's happening here is legal. It's illegal under U.S. law. It's illegal under international law. It's like there's no stretch of an argument. And the other sad thing is, I think we're at the point now where, and this is something about human nature, it works like this. Now this is the 5th time we're covering a Venezuelan boat being illegally blown up, right? And I sense that interest in this is going down, and anger and outrage in this is going down, when it should be the fucking opposite. Like, with every new crime that's committed, interest should go up, right? In the same way, like with a serial killer, like when they're on their 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th victim, it's like, oh shit, who was this person? What's their name? What happened? What's this guy's MO? Like, how does he go about doing the murders? Like, this is a serial killer president. Like, I honestly think that's the best way to describe it. He's a serial killer president. We need to start having serious discussions about a national divorce. Because I got to be honest with you, I'm thinking about it more and more lately. Because, like, what the fuck do the blue states get out of this exactly? What do the blue states get out of this? We are net taxpayers to the federal government, so we pay more than we get back. We're subsidizing the red states, and then in return, what do we get? ICE Gestapo thugs and the National Guard and the military invading our cities when we don't fucking want them there, and ruining the lives of normal people who are just trying to work their jobs and fucking, help their families out and take care of business. I mean, seriously, what are we getting out of this? And by the way, also, it's not even like we have equal representation. With the Electoral College, it's very clear that everything's biased in favor of red America, right? Wyoming gets 2 senators. I don't even think they have 1 million people that live in Wyoming. California's got like 40 fucking million people that live there, and they get 2 senators, right? I mean, this is, it's kind of a joke at this point. It's kind of a joke. It's like, if this is a marriage, this is a fucking marriage where one side is an abusive, alcoholic gaslighter, and the other side is just a good person trying their best, and we're getting fucking abused on a daily basis. Why would we stay in this arrangement? Why would we stay in it? And I mean that seriously. I mean that sincerely. It's something we got to start thinking about, man. Because you could easily have it so that this country gets broken up. You could have, basically the red states of America and the blue states of America, and let them have, hey, you guys want to have unlimited guns. You guys want to have zero Medicare, zero Medicaid, zero Social Security. Have at it. Go right ahead. But you know what? If we were to separate, the fact of the matter is, within 10 years, maybe even within 5 years, if the blue states were on their own, we would have universal health care. We would have universal college. We would have unions and higher wages. We would have basically like a Scandinavian system, right? Like a beautiful Scandinavian system where everybody's happy, everybody's healthy. But no, they're holding us back. Literally, they are holding us back. Red America is holding us back from living better lives, more fruitful lives. So we got to talk about something that's pretty serious, actually, because, if you think about things objectively, of course, the correct reaction to what's happening now is, I bet you Democrats are going to sweep in the midterms. I bet you they're going to crush in 2028. And that's all fair. But I think the concern everybody also has is, how do we know the 2026 elections will be free and fair? How do we know the 2028 elections will be free and fair? How do we know we're even going to have 2028 elections at this rate, how we're going now, right? And so, to make it even worse, to add insult to injury, to rub salt in the wound, which is already fucking open and festering, here we have a report from CNN which explains how, guys, this could get even worse. So we already have the gerrymandering that Republicans are doing. And if we get to gerrymandering, which clearly we are, they have more gerrymandering they could do, which would net them more seats, right? Like, that's where we are. But it still gets worse even than that. Ready? Listen to this.
Actually represents pretty accurately, mathematically, how the country is divided over the question of the presidency. But if you look at this is what the party pickups would be for congressional districts. Republicans, 5. Missouri, 1. North Carolina, 1. Ohio, 2 or 3. Indiana, 1 or 2. Florida, still discussion down there, but that could be another gold mine for them if they tipped it even further their way. Kansas, 1. New Hampshire, 1. And Nebraska. Democrats, Utah, California, Maryland. Look at this. If you offset California and Texas, Missouri and Utah, North Carolina and Maryland, everything left over is an advantage to the Republicans. And don't forget, the Supreme Court is considering what could really be the end of the Voting Rights Act, which would protect minority groups. So you don't have a state that's half black, for example, that elects only one congressional member and everybody else goes to the Republicans that would represent that population in some ways. So if that is gutted, Democrats could lose 19 seats. This would be a huge amount. But this is also a measure of how much the White House is concerned about this, because Donald Trump knows if the Democrats get the House again, there could be new investigations just like last time. There could be a new impeachment. There could be a lot of impediment to these plans that right now the Republicans in the House and Senate are letting run like a freight train.
But listen to what he's saying here. There's a Supreme Court case in front of them right now. They just had oral arguments, by the way. And in those oral arguments, the flavor was clear. They're leaning towards basically fully axing the Voting Rights Act. They already fucking gave it a broken arm and a broken leg. It's already fucking hobbling along, barely surviving, right? We've already taken some fucking body blows in this bitch. Now they're saying, if they make this decision, Democrats could lose 19 seats. So this would be yet another way in which the right is rigging it. The right is cheating. So as you all know, we have a bunch of red state National Guardsmen that have been called up to invade blue cities. And that is what I like to call a soft civil war. That is what we're currently witnessing. It's a soft civil war. Only one side is fighting. That would be the red state side. And that's why you see the National Guard of Texas was brought into Chicago. I think maybe Portland too. No, it was just Chicago. That led to this legendary picture. So let me show you guys this and refresh your memory. These are some National Guardsmen from Texas, the elite fighting force, as Greg Abbott said, Governor Hot Wheels said. And here they are showing up to Chicago. They got their weapons. They're decked out in their military gear. And as you can see, we're in need of a little bit of Jenny Craig in this bitch, if I'm being honest with you. I don't know, am I dating myself by saying Jenny Craig? Is that like an old school diet thing? Like, I don't know if the young ones out there know what I'm saying. Let's just say keto would be their friend, right? Fill in the blank. Weight Watchers. That's a good one. Weight Watchers is calling their name. So because these gentlemen are rather portly, they were referred to by the internet as Meal Team 6. Meal Team 6. Some people called them the Gravy Seals. Crystal said about them, where we go V1, we go V all. There was a lot of rather funny jokes at their expense, because here they are, called up to invade the United States of America, even though they're Americans, and, aid in the fucking ICE agent disgusting abuses that we're witnessing. And so when I say the internet had a field day, bro, I mean the internet had a field day. I mean, it was brutal. Even I was like, oh, god damn, bro, you guys are fucking them up hard. All right, so ready? Listen to what happened next. Hegseth is sending home fat troops after viral photos. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth has been on a crusade against fat troops for months, telling military leaders he finds overweight soldiers tiring to look at. Then the Texas National Guard rolled into Chicago for Trump's immigration crackdown, and someone snapped a photo of visibly overweight soldiers unloading from the trucks. The image went extremely viral. Extremely viral. Within 24 hours, Texas confirmed it had replaced a small group of the 200 Guard members, though they won't say exactly who or how many. They blamed the speed of deployment for not catching non-compliant soldiers before shipping them out. Hegseth said, quote, standards are back at the Department of War. So, guys, let me explain to you why this story is actually important and it matters. When we bullied the fuck out of them, but more importantly, when we mocked them ruthlessly and relentlessly. It stung. It stung, and then they acted. Hegseth acted. Trump also did a press conference the other day in the White House, and he said, quote, the price of things are down. They're down. He basically declared that inflation is over. Well, here's a headline from The Guardian. 75% of Americans, sorry, Stinky's playing with their toy. 75% of Americans report soaring prices as Trump claims inflation over. So he says inflation's over, and 75% of Americans say prices are soaring. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Which, by the way, we don't even need to ask how people feel about this because we have empirical data. We have numbers on it. And the fact of the matter is, the price of ground beef is up 40%. The price of coffee is up 40%. Most groceries at the store, it's up double digits, over 10%. People are drowning in the high prices. And by the way, this is one of the main reasons he was elected, was to reduce the prices, and now he's not. So if we have free and fair elections, and, you know, emphasis on if, then this will be like prime FDR numbers for Democrats in 2026 and 2028. Because even without them making good arguments and without them like really going at MAGA, it's still the case that MAGA is destroying the country so thoroughly that people will default to the Democratic Party. That's how much they've ruined everything. Now, you'll never guess who's defending these assholes. It is Vice President J.D. Vance. So this is what he said about the I Love Hitler group chat. Quote, "Grow up, focus on the real issues. Don't focus on what kids say in group chats. The reality is that kids do stupid things, especially young boys. They tell edgy, offensive jokes. That's what kids do." Now, as somebody tweeted at him, "They were only 35, you sick fuck." Let's not forget, this young Republicans group chat was people 40 and younger. Most of them were 27, 28, 35. And here he is, "Oh, these kids are telling edgy jokes." These are grown men who are working for political parties. What are you talking about? Oh my God, insane. Now, by the way, somebody asked J.D. Vance, "Oh, this is your take now on edgy jokes. Remind me what your take was a few weeks ago when Charlie Kirk got killed. What was your take then on edgy jokes?" "Oh, that's right. You said, quote, when you see someone celebrating Charlie's murder, call them out, and hell, call their employer." So in other words, fire them, cancel them, deplatform them if they make a joke about Charlie Kirk being killed, or if they quote Charlie Kirk, his own words after he was killed, ruin their life. But if somebody says, "I love Hitler," which is not a joke because they actually fucking mean it, oh, it's whatever, bro. It's no big deal. Which leads me to Jennifer Welch, the I've Had It podcast queen, said the following.
He is married to a woman of Indian descent.
Yes.
He has mixed race children.
Yes.
So to all of the MAGA voters out there, if this man will not defend his wife and will not defend his kids, do you think he gives a crap about you?
Now, that is spitting hot fire. That is 100% accurate. And because it's so accurate, the right is melting down. So Senator Mike Lee said this. "This statement about J.D. Vance's mixed race children showcases the left's unhealthy obsession with race." So the people saying, "I love Hitler," they're not the ones, the people trying to overturn the Voting Rights Act, they're not the ones who are obsessed with race. It's lefties and liberals who are obsessed with race. He says, "It's repulsive. Leave the vice president's kids alone. MSNBC should apologize." Wrong, Mike Lee. You should suck my nuts from the back. That's what you should do. Because she is 100% right. Now, by the way, what are these right-wingers missing? What they're missing is, hey, idiots, the exact thing that Jennifer Welch is saying happened. It's not theoretical. Like, it was, what was it, 6 months ago or something? There was another right-wing group chat, I think it was, that leaked. And they were saying, like, smears and vile, disgusting things and slurs against Indians. And J.D. Vance was asked about that. He commented on it, and he refused to defend his wife and his kids. He did the same tap dance of like, "Oh, edgy jokes, bro. It's whatever, bro. Like, get over it, bro." So that's why she's saying it, because it literally happened. Now, you'll never guess who's defending these assholes. It is Vice President J.D. Vance. So this is what he said about the I Love Hitler group chat. Quote, "Grow up. Focus on the real issues. Don't focus on what kids say in group chats. The reality is that kids do stupid things, especially young boys. They tell edgy, offensive jokes. That's what kids do." Now, as somebody tweeted at him, "They were only 35, you sick fuck." Let's not forget, this young Republicans group chat was people 40 and younger. Most of them were 27, 28, 35. And here he is, "Oh, these kids are telling edgy jokes." These are grown men who are working for political parties. What are you talking about? Oh my God, insane. Now, by the way, somebody asked J.D. Vance, "Oh, this is your take now on edgy jokes. Remind me what your take was a few weeks ago when Charlie Kirk got killed. What was your take then on edgy jokes?" "Oh, that's right. You said, quote, when you see someone celebrating Charlie's murder, call them out, and hell, call their employer." So in other words, fire them, cancel them, deplatform them if they make a joke about Charlie Kirk being killed, or if they quote Charlie Kirk, his own words after he was killed, ruin their life. But if somebody says, I love Hitler, which is not a joke because they actually fucking mean it, oh, it's whatever, bro. It's no big deal. Which leads me to Jennifer Welch, the I've Had It podcast queen, said the following.
He is married to a woman of Indian descent.
Yes.
He has mixed race children.
Yes.
So to all of the MAGA voters out there, if this man will not defend his wife and will not defend his kids, do you think he gives a crap about you?
Now, that is spitting hot fire. That is 100% accurate. And because it's so accurate, the right is melting down. So Senator Mike Lee said this. This statement about J.D. Vance's mixed race children showcases the left's unhealthy obsession with race. So the people saying, I love Hitler, they're not the ones, the people trying to overturn the Voting Rights Act, they're not the ones who are obsessed with race. It's lefties and liberals who are obsessed with race. He says, it's repulsive. Leave the vice president's kids alone. MSNBC should apologize. Wrong, Mike Lee. You should suck my nuts from the back. That's what you should do. Because she is 100% right. Now, by the way, what are these right-wingers missing? What they're missing is, hey, idiots, the exact thing that Jennifer Welch is saying happened. It's not theoretical. Like, it was, what was it, 6 months ago or something? There was another right-wing group chat, I think it was, that leaked. And they were saying, like, smears and vile, disgusting things and slurs against Indians. And J.D. Vance was asked about that. He commented on it. And he refused to defend his wife and his kids. He did the same tap dance of like, oh, edgy jokes, bro. It's whatever, bro. Like, get over it, bro. So that's why she's saying it, because it literally happened. We also have, this is crazy. So we have our first official attempt to go after Antifa-related terrorism. So Pam Bondi came out and announced that they're going to bring charges for the Texas ICE attack, terrorism-related charges. And this is all happening under the NSPM 7 thing that Ken Klibenstein reported on. Basically, what that means is there's this total government mindset change where now the federal government is constantly on the lookout for anti-Americanism, anti-capitalism, anti-Christianity, extremism on migration, race, and gender. Basically, anybody left of center is either a potential terrorist or terrorist adjacent. And so they're going to try to investigate all, Indivisible and Move On and Act Blue and all these different Democratic organizations, just standard liberal organizations. Alex Soros, George Soros' son, he's the standard liberal donor, big money donor. They're going to investigate him and all of his outlets. And they're going to try to bring charges relative to you're funding Antifa terrorism. Now, it's all bullshit and nothing will come of it. But the point is to chill speech. The point is to chill dissent and opposition and ruin 2 or 3 years of the lives of these people, to make them go to court, make them pay massive fees, etc. Like, that's what's happening here. And so to charge, this is probably the first of many. They're going to try to charge a whole bunch of bullshit Antifa cases, even though Antifa is not an official organization. There is no hierarchy. There is no command chain. There is no boss of Antifa, CEO of Antifa, or whatever the fuck. It's this loose amalgamation of people who are against fascists, who will counter-protest the Proud Boys or white nationalists or whatever the fuck. But notice what it says. If you are trying to ban being anti-fascist, by logical deduction, what does that say? What side are you on? If the anti-fascists are bad, that means blank is good. Not that hard to figure out, is it? All right, so now let's move on. Bernie and AOC did this town hall event for CNN the other night, and there were a couple moments that came out of it that we want to get your reaction to. So let's take a look at the first one.
Hi. On the issue of healthcare, a lot of the clinics and hospitals that are negatively affected the most under the One Big Beautiful Bill are located in rural, mostly Republican areas. A lot of the increases in Affordable Care Act premiums that Democrats are fighting to prevent are concentrated in more rural Republican areas. If the Republicans are so insistent on sticking it to their own voters on this issue, why don't the Democrats just let them?
I mean, I think Alexandria touched on this before, and that is, we are, one of the things, and this really annoys me about Trump, he's dividing this country. Why would I not? When we hit the road, we were in Idaho, right? It's the most conservative state in America, I think. We had many thousands of people coming out. We are Americans. What, you think I would feel okay if somebody in a Republican state died because they couldn't get health care? I would hope not. I would hope nobody feels that way.
And I think it also speaks to a big difference between someone like Trump and someone like me or someone like Bernie, which is that Trump believes that if you don't vote for him, he doesn't have to be your leader. That if you didn't vote for him, that you don't deserve good things to happen to you. I don't care if someone voted for me or not. I don't care if someone is a Republican or an independent or a Democrat. I don't care if someone likes me or not. That will never change the fact that I'm going to fight for them to have health care. I want MAGA to have health care. I want MAGA to be paid a living wage. But he doesn't want people who are Democrats, or he doesn't want people based on their political affiliation to benefit. And that is the difference between a strongman and an authoritarian and a leader of a democracy.
I mean, my line has been a little sharper than that.
Yeah.
I've said, look, I'll be honest, I fucking hate these people. I despise them. I don't want to hang out with them. I don't want to eat dinner with them. I don't want to casually chat with them and fucking see what's going on in their lives. Fuck them. But at the same time, I also want them to live a good life. I also want them to have healthcare. I also want them to have high wages. I want them to feel fulfilled. And I think she's right. That's the difference. Is like when they look at us, they go, I hate you and I want you to suffer.
Yeah.
You know?
It's funny, when I saw that clip, I was like, sounds like she's been listening to Kyle.
Yeah. So Trump has been doing a lot of press conferences lately, and he had this moment at one he did in the White House that people sort of like, they seized on this moment and said, what exactly is he admitting to here? And he's talking about Stephen Miller, and listen to this.
Didn't get elected. I did get elected for crime, but I didn't get elected for what we're doing. This is many, many steps above it. I want to thank Stephen Miller, who's right back in the audience right there. I'd love to have him. I love watching him on television. I'd love to have him come up and explain his true feelings, but maybe not his truest feelings. That might be going a little bit too far. But Stephen, thank you for doing an unbelievable job. And the people of this country love you, I'll tell you. And they love what you say about crime and stopping crime.
So he said, I'd love for Stephen Miller to come up and explain his feelings. Maybe not his true feelings. That might be going a little too far.
Maybe not his truest feelings, he said. Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
he's a Nazi. He's saying he's a Nazi.
He knows. There was a report that in a 2024 private meeting.
Oh, I have it right in front of me. You want me to read it?
I've got it. Trump joked that if it was up to Stephen Miller, there'd only be 100 million people in this country, and they'd all look like Miller. And this is the guy that you've now put in charge of most of your government. There's a bunch of reporting internally. They call him the prime minister. Now, think about that. Like, think about the context of Israel. Prime Minister Netanyahu. They have a president, too, but he doesn't really do all the shit. The person who does the shit is usually the prime minister. So that's what they call him internally. He's in charge of not only the insane, like, thug fascism, being, invasions of blue cities across the country. Him and Rubio are the ones that are really in charge of the Department of Defense or Department of War, whatever you want to call it. They're the ones that generals are bringing the, like, potential military actions to, not Hegseth, who's just been relegated to, like, telling people they're fat and to shave their beards or whatever. So this dude who is a Nazi white nationalist, you've put in charge of your government. So what does that make you?
It's just terrifying, man. It's just so fucking... Like, what are we supposed to do with this? What am I supposed to do with this? This is what I've been saying on my show. I somehow brought it up like 4 times on my show the other day. But, like, I want a national divorce at this point. I really do. I just feel so... We're in an abusive relationship, basically. They're like an alcoholic, abusive gaslighter. And we're just like a decent person trying to do the best we can. And then they're like intent on ruining our life, making everything worse. And it's like, what am I supposed to do with this? You're not giving me anything I could work with. You know what I'm saying? It's not like you have Democrats who are like obsessed with the legacy of Stalin and they're trying to usher back in Stalin's policies. That's not happening. So there is no equal and opposite force.
Yeah.
It's just like semi-reasonable people doing their best, and then it's like goose-stepping psychopaths. One of the things that we're seeing on the right these days, I think it's fair to call a race to the bottom, because you have this thing called the based ritual or vice signaling, and the idea behind it is, hey, if you say something fucked up and evil and right-wing, I'm going to out fucked up and evil and right-wing you. And so it's like a race to be more fascist and more extreme and more Nazi. And that's where like a lot of the young Republicans are. And these are the people who are like staffing Republican politicians' offices and shit. So here we have a guy by the name of Christian nationalist pastor or Christian nationalist podcaster Joshua Hames. And this guy is Pete Hegseth's pastor. And he said this into a microphone in the year of our Lord 2025. Listen to this.
The institution of slavery is not inherently evil. I know. Some of you guys are upset by that. Some of you guys are saying, I've been saying that for years. Okay, I'll take it a step further. It is not inherently evil to own another human being. I know, just wait. Some of you guys are really upset, but let's talk through this because it is very important that every Christian affirm what I just said. And not only should they affirm it, every Christian in today's society should be able to defend what I just said, okay?
I know a lot of you are watching this and your jaw's on the ground and you're like, holy fucking shit. But I gotta be honest with you, I saw this coming. I knew this was coming. And the reason I knew this was coming is the right has already said, we don't give a fuck about democracy. The right has already said, we don't give a fuck about Israel doing a genocide and massacring innocent Palestinian children. So if they've moved beyond democracy and they've moved beyond giving a shit about genocide, why would they say, oh yeah, let's treat everybody equally and let's be anti-slavery? No, like slavery is on par with genocide. Like let's call it what it is. Like the crime of crimes, when you talk about the crime of crimes, it's probably genocide and slavery are the one. So if they've already greenlit genocide, what would stop them from greenlighting slavery? Right? And it fits perfectly in their racial hierarchy ideas. I mean, that's what it means to be a right-winger, is to believe in a natural hierarchy. And in the minds of right-wingers, it's like white men are at the top, and then everybody's beneath them, right? And then at the bottom, you have, Jews and black people, basically, and women. And so I'm not surprised by this in the slightest bit. But yes, now the idea, like debating slavery is back in question. So as you all know, we are one of the few outlets that has correctly talked about all of the warmongering actions of the Trump regime. So, for example, they're bombing Venezuelan fishing boats. They've bombed Yemen, Somalia, Iran. They've threatened Greenland, Panama, Canada, Mexico. And this is all in the second term. Don't even get me started on the first term with his increase in drone strikes of over 400% and keeping us in Iraq and Afghanistan and occupying a third of Syria to take the oil and increasing the Pentagon budget every year as he pretends like he's a peacenik. Like it was all bullshit. All that stuff is bullshit. Well, guess what? We now added a new country to the list that Trump is threatening. Ready? So Gustavo Petro, who's the left-wing president of Colombia, he says, U.S. government officials have committed a murder and violated our sovereignty in territorial waters. Fisherman Alejandro Carranza had no ties to the drug trade, and his daily activity was fishing. The Colombian boat was adrift and had its distress signal up due to an engine failure. We await explanations from the U.S. government. So Midas Touchpoint is out. News: Colombian President Gustavo Petro accused U.S. government officials of murder and violating Colombia's sovereignty, and says the Trump ordered strike of a boat in the Caribbean killed a fisherman named Alejandro Carranza. So Trump responds, President Gustavo Petro of Colombia is an illegal drug leader strongly encouraging the massive production of drugs in big and small fields all over Colombia. So his reaction is to say, this president is an illegal drug leader. It has become the biggest business in Colombia by far, and Petro does nothing to stop it, despite large-scale payments and subsidies from the USA that are nothing more than a long-term ripoff of America. As of today, these payments, or any other form of payment or subsidies, will no longer be made. The purpose of this drug production is the sale of massive amounts of product into the United States, causing death, destruction, and havoc. Petro, a low-rated and very unpopular leader with a fresh mouth, Jesus Christ, towards America, better close up these killing fields immediately, or the United States will close them up for him, and it won't be done nicely. Thank you for your attention to this matter. So, to put that in layman's terms, he's threatening war with Colombia because the president of Colombia correctly went after him and said, stop murdering innocent fishermen who are in the Caribbean. Stop doing that. And thank God for Gustavo Petro, because I don't see anybody else fucking speaking up and going, you do know you're doing terror attacks and committing murder, right? You do know there's zero evidence these people are drug smugglers. And even if they were drug smugglers, the fucking penalty for that is not death. It's not fucking put them to death, blow them up. No due process whatsoever. Like, this is insane that we've gotten to this point. All right, y'all. So a comedy civil war has erupted. You have basically Joe Rogan and Andrew Schultz, and they're the two who are in the Rogan sphere who are now leading the charge against the Rogan sphere critical comedians. But yeah, there are some clear dividing lines here. Of course, you have Mark Maron on the other side of them. You have, you could argue, Andrew Santino, Bobby Lee, Stavros. So there's some clear dividing lines here, and this is the first time that it appears like both Joe Rogan and Andrew Schultz sort of snapped and decided to call out some of their detractors. So we talked a little bit about Rogan versus Maron the other day on Friday, but I wanted to dive a little deeper here. So shout out to Too Lazy to Try, who has a great YouTube channel. Definitely go subscribe to Too Lazy to Try. They broke down the Rogan versus Maron thing, and we're going to go ahead and break it down. Here we go.
Addicted to these arguments that people have constantly every day and calling people assholes and losers, and you're just carrying around all that bullshit with you all day.
That's exhausting.
Which is why I don't do it. I mean, I could go in on fucking every person that ever wronged me or this, that, and said bad things about me, and it's just like super unhealthy.
Well,
super
we know
unhealthy
people our age who are still doing that shit.
Of course. Don't
Comics.
Mark Maron, don't say it.
So as he does his little, I would never, bro. I'm above the fray. I don't engage in this petty drama bullshit, sniping back and forth. He's now going to proceed to do exactly that. And he didn't just do it in this podcast. He did it in another one he had on Andrew Schultz after Callan and did it again.
He's sad. He wants other people to hurt. That's what it is.
It's just not charitable. It's
well, it's also, he's pathologically jealous. Like, he's been he's like literally mentally ill. The thing is that Maron's podcast, which was number 1, isn't even in the top 100 anymore.
Oh my God. So understand something. Maron's criticisms were substantive. They were political in nature. It was like, hey, you're riding Trump's dick and ushering in fascism. And also, you're making comedy worse because all you're doing is trying to out-offensive each other, right? So he's saying negative effects on comedy and making comedy like this right-wing hack space. And also, you're ushering in fascism. That's what Maron's criticisms were. It had nothing to do with any interpersonal bullshit. Nothing to do with that. But notice, Rogan's response is to go personal. Rogan's response, oh, he's jealous, oh, he's insecure, oh, he's mentally ill. So everything he's saying is about the personality, the person of Mark Maron. Everything Maron is saying is about the impact Rogan is having on the body politic and comedy. So Maron's criticisms are substantive. Rogan's criticisms are personal.
And also, Joe said he got really pissed about that joke Mark Maron made on his special about how Theo Von would do a podcast with Hitler, because apparently that sent Theo into a spiral. So Mark is wreaking havoc on these people. Like, it's crazy.
By the way, Rogan does go on to say that. He sent Theo into a spiral with his mean joke in his comedy special. Like, well, hold on. Aren't you the free speech guys? Aren't you the fucking suck it up guys? Aren't you the anything goes, bro, nothing held sacred? But apparently Theo Von is off limits to make fun of? Jesus Christ.
He has Joe Rogan now acting like sometimes jokes go too far, and Theo Von is off limits. You know, it's funny that Rogan will praise Tony Hinchcliffe nonstop for roasting random open micers, but then if a comic makes a joke about Theo Von, it's like the end of the world. Yeah. So Rogan gets defensive about Theo here and says Mark just made the joke because he's jealous of Theo, which he probably is jealous of Theo, but also I think Rogan's kind of coping here because he also proves the joke was accurate. It's so funny. He's like, Mark said Theo would have Hitler on. Does he really believe that? Does he think that's true? Come on, Theo has anyone on his podcast. He'll talk to anyone.
He also lies.
By the way, that proves his point, right? You guys had Trump on and gave him a hot stone massage. You would have Hitler on in the fucking, 1930s. You would. So the reason why that joke was funny is because there's truth in it. There's truth. I mean, Theo just had some law enforcement asshole defending ICE on the other day. Yeah, this whole I'll talk to anybody, bro. I'll talk to anybody, bro. Do people realize yet how stupid that is? Do people realize how low IQ that is? Trying to make it seem like it's a virtue to, quote, talk to anybody? Okay, invite on a serial killer. Invite on a Nazi. Invite on a child rapist. Invite on a jihadist. Invite on a tanky or a liar or some former friend of you who betrayed you and wronged you and stole money from you. Invite on a violent paranoid schizophrenic. Invite on a cult leader. No, there are fucking lines. Everybody has lines. But when they get cornered, they go, oh, I'll talk to anybody, bro. That's a weak-ass way to try to deflect from the fact that these people helped elect a fucking fascist.
No, I'm kidding. I'm sure this is just going to escalate, and other comedians will probably chime in and start beefing.
Now, by the way, it's exactly what we got. So Andrew Schultz dives in And he honestly, his reaction might even be worse than Rogan's.
Like, I've been seeing a lot of comedians like trying to like separate themselves from Austin lately. Have you seen this? A lot of comedians that like use Joe and his millions of followers to boost their careers, that went on there to promote their specials, that performed at the club, like really used Joe's power and influence that he was very generous to give them. And all of a sudden there's like a little internet backlash. It's like, and now I see these comics like kind of vocally talking shit, that they would talk all this shit, by the way, behind closed doors, because it's what comics do, but like real like rat weasel shit. Because you let this guy enrich you, you used him for his followers, and now you see a situation where like they're getting backlash, and instead you pile on for self-salvation. Yeah. There's a lot of fucking weasels in this business. And
so, according to Andrew Schultz, it's rat weasel shit to disagree with Rogan publicly. If you've ever been on his podcast, you're not allowed to say a single fucking word against him. That's the logic he's setting up here. What happened to free speech? What happened to being authentic? What happened to telling the truth? What about that? No. Can't do it when it comes to Rogan. Rogan, you got to bite your tongue. He's the emperor, god, lord, overlord, king of the fucking... Lord and overlord in the same thing doesn't make sense. Of the comedy scene, right? So you're not allowed to say anything about him. It's unbelievable. Holy shit.
Good. I like to see it. I want everybody to know.
All right, so it looks like the Rogan sphere is done holding back. The same day Rogan called out Mark Maron, Schultz also called out Maron and every comedian that's turned on Rogan. So things are getting really interesting. You know, it seems like now Rogan's friends might have the green light to start trashing other comics. Because like I said in my last video, for a while, Rogan didn't want any conflict between them. He hates it, which is respectable, but we all know behind the scenes there's a ton of conflict, jealousy, trash talking, and backstabbing. So it's nice to see it all be put out in the open now. I mean, after the Riyadh Comedy Festival and comedians trashing the Rogan sphere, it's like we're in a comedy civil war now. Like Schultz, he went off on so many people during this. You know, like with Rogan, you could tell Schultz has also been holding this in for a while, and there's a lot of people he wanted to talk shit about. And it's hilarious because he brings up Bill Burr and Bobby Lee and Andrew Santino and the backlash they've been getting for doing the Riyadh Comedy Festival.
By the way, Bill Burr hasn't said, I don't think, anything against Rogan. If anything ever, it was very tepid. Santino also, I don't think he said anything specifically against Rogan, just very tepid criticisms of the Austin scene, or his guests make those criticisms. And this is still leads to Andrew Schultz going off.
Dude, I'm seeing these comments. It's just so two-faced snake weasels, little rats. Yeah. And this is kind of who they are, though, to be honest. Like, these are the conversations they have in private, and then they kind of change face. So maybe it's even better that they're finally have the balls to be authentic. I mean,
Yeah, so it sounds like shit's hitting the fan here. You know, those comedians goofing on Rogan really touched a nerve. Like, I figured it was getting to him, but I didn't realize it was this bad. And I'm not totally sure who Schultz is talking about, but at one point it definitely sounds like he's referring to Stavros Hakias, who's been on Rogan's podcast, but he's not.
And by the way, is funnier than anybody in the Rogan sphere could ever fucking hope to be ever.
Someone whose career was made by Rogan. But Schultz refers to him because he did a podcast with another comedian, and I think she made a trans joke or something, and he called her out on it and said she had Austin brain. And that clip got a lot of attention. And Schultz...
No, she kept saying the T slur. The slur for trans. The T slur for trans, right? She kept saying that, and Stavros was like vibing with it and being jokey about it, but was also like, hey dog, like, don't say that. Like, for your own good, kind of. Don't say that, right?
It also mentions how this person was on a podcast that's known for saying offensive stuff, which sounds like he's referring to Town. So I think he's definitely talking about Stavros. And also it sounds like he'd still be talking.
But you can't cancel Stavros. He doesn't care, right? He doesn't care. For him, there actually is nothing held sacred. And so, the Rogan sphere comes after him. That's not going to impact him at all. He doesn't give a fuck, right? Like, but they're making it seem like he sinned by disagreeing with Rogan.
About Andrew Santino and Bobby Lee, you know, because they had on Maron and they also criticized the Rogan sphere. But then recently Santino went on Rogan's podcast and did Kill Tony. So after that, people thought everything was fine between them. But now hearing this, it sounds like, who knows? You know, it sounds like Schultz thinks he's a backstabber. So also I think he could be referring to Anthony Jeselnik because he's been making fun of Schultz and the Rogan sphere for a while now, but I guess not as much recently. And those comedians seem to respect him a little more. So it's possible Schultz isn't thinking of him. And obviously, I mean, he's been on Rogan's podcast, but Rogan's not responsible for his career either. So then also, I'm sure Schultz is thinking of Bill Burr and maybe Dan Soder. He's another guy that's been on Rogan's podcast before, and he's taken some subtle shots, kind of more so at the people that follow Rogan and the comedians that latch onto him, like Schultz. And then also, he had on Mark Maron recently, so I'm sure that did it. You know, it sounds like if you have on Mark Maron, the Rogan sphere hates you.
Yeah, so it seems like it's the Rogan sphere. It's Schultz, it's Rogan. They're like the petty high school bitches. You know what I'm saying? Like, Bobby Lee and Andrew Santino, how dare you have on Mark Maron? He's not friends with our overlord, Rogan. Like, what do you do? Like, come on, man. We all see through this.
But none of these comedians owe their careers to Rogan. Like, I'm sure they really appreciate him inviting them on and would admit Rogan's very gracious to comedians and loves helping them out and seeing them succeed. But I don't think it's out of line for them to joke about or criticize Rogan just because he had them on his podcast once.
Do you know what I mean? I'm seeing these comments. It's just so two-faced snake weasels, little rats. Yeah. And this is kind of who they are, though, to be honest. Like, these are the conversations they have in private, and then they kind of change face. So maybe it's even better that they're finally have the balls to be authentic. I mean, look,
Yeah, so it sounds like shit's hitting the fan here. You know, those comedians goofing on Rogan really touched a nerve. Like, I figured it was getting to him, but I didn't realize it was this bad. And I'm not totally sure who Schultz is talking about, but at one point it definitely sounds like he's referring to Stavros Hakias, who's been on Rogan's podcast, but he's not.
And by the way, is funnier than anybody in the Rogan sphere could ever fucking hope to be ever.
Someone whose career was made by Rogan, but Schultz refers to him because he did a podcast with another comedian, and I think she made a trans joke or something, and he called her out on it and said she had Austin brain, and that clip got a lot of attention. And Schultz,
no, she kept saying the T slur, the slur for trans, the T slur for trans, right? She kept saying that, and Stavros was like vibing with it and being jokey about it, but was also like, "Hey, dog, like, don't say that. Like, for your own good, kind of. Don't say that, right?"
Also mentions how this person was on a podcast that's known for saying offensive stuff, which sounds like he's referring to Town. So I think he's definitely talking about Stavros. And also it sounds like he could still be talking.
But you can't cancel Stavros. He doesn't care, right? He doesn't care. For him, there actually is nothing held sacred. And so, the Rogan sphere comes after him. That's not going to impact him at all. He doesn't give a fuck, right? Like, but they're making it seem like he sinned by disagreeing with Rogan.
About Andrew Santino and Bobby Lee, you know, because they had on Marin and they also criticized the Rogan sphere. But then recently Santino went on Rogan's podcast and did kill Tony. So after that, people thought everything was fine between them. But now hearing this, it sounds like, who knows? You know, it sounds like Schultz thinks he's a backstabber. So also I think he could be referring to Anthony Jeselnik because he's been making fun of Schultz and the Rogan sphere for a while now, but I guess not as much recently. And those comedians seem to respect him a little more. So it's possible Schultz isn't thinking of him. And obviously, I mean, he's been on Rogan's podcast, but Rogan's not responsible for his career either. So then also, I'm sure Schultz is thinking of Bill Burr and maybe Dan Soder. He's another guy that's been on Rogan's podcast before, and he's taken some subtle shots, kind of more so at the people that follow Rogan and the comedians that latch onto him, like Schultz. And then also, he had on Mark Maron recently, so I'm sure that did it. You know, it sounds like if you have on Mark Maron, the Rogan sphere hates you.
Yeah, so it seems like it's the Rogan sphere. It's Schultz, it's Rogan. They're like the petty high school bitches. You know what I'm saying? Like, Bobby Lee and Andrew Santino, how dare you have on Mark Maron? He's not friends with our overlord, Rogan. Like, what do you do? Like, come on, man. We all see through this.
But none of these comedians owe their careers to Rogan. Like, I'm sure they really appreciate him inviting them on and would admit Rogan's very gracious to comedians and loves helping them out and seeing them succeed. But I don't think it's out of line for them to joke about or criticize Rogan just because he had them on his podcast once.
So now, back to the group chat thing, right? How you had the young Republicans who are 40 years old group chat. I love Hitler. You know, send our enemies to the gas chamber, call black people watermelon people, just all sorts of fucking cringeworthy fucking vice signaling and the based ritual that was going on. Well, here are the Daily Wire hosts talking about that. Let's see what they say.
Again, I'm not even disagreeing with the motivations of the Politico story. In fact, even on my show today, I talked about the motivations of the Politico story, which, Matt, I agree, are completely scurrilous and designed to distract from the sort of violent rhetoric we've seen from the left. But it has led to...
How dare Politico release this? They're just trying to distract from the violent rhetoric of the left. Really? There were 3 MAGA terror attacks within the past month, and none of you guys said dick about it or said this is, you know, a problem endemic to the right. But yeah, that's what they were doing. They were distracting from the violence of the left, please.
I think a reactionary response on some parts of the right to say there should be no policing ever at all. No social consequences should ever attend to things that are said on the right. That it's basically just pure my side versus your side. The problem I have is, number one, I think that's moral. And number two, I don't think that's pragmatic. I don't think that's moral because I think that there are things that get said on the right that are really, really, really ugly. And pretending those away doesn't make them go away. I think that they're rising. I think that they're getting more common. I know that my death threats from that side are getting more common. I know I have more security because of that. And it's not just from the left. I have lots of security from the left. And I also get lots of security from the right. Matt, I think a little bit earlier today, you tweeted that kind of your litmus test is the people who are trying to kill you. And I totally get that. I also have that litmus test. The difference is that I think that if somebody tries to kill you, Matt, there's a good shot that it's going to be a leftist. If somebody tries to kill me, it's a freaking Agatha Christie novel. I just don't know which direction the bullet is coming from at this point, given the sort of various and sundry radical extremes that exist. I'm not going to say that the right is equivalent to the left in this respect, because I don't think it's been mainstreamed to nearly the same effect on the right that it has been on the left. But to pretend that it has not infiltrated a lot of very important spaces.
So, in other words, what you have Ben Shapiro saying to his own Daily Wire host here is, we have a Nazi problem on the right. Yeah, you know, lefties hate me, but these right-wingers hate me too, and if I get killed, it might be one of the far-right terrorists, one of the Nazi types who does it, so, you know, hey, we should probably criticize it when a group chat comes out where they say stuff like, I love Hitler. And he's basically begging and pleading with the people who work for the Daily Wire going, can you fucking say something about this? Meanwhile, Matt Walsh was going out there and making a big point of saying, I'm not going to criticize anybody on the right. we need to unite on the right. So no, I'm not going to criticize anybody on the right at all. If you're on the right, you're on my team, and that's the end of the conversation. And then Ben Shapiro, who of course is very Jewish, he's going, well, hold on. Some of the people in the right-wing tent want to shove me in a gas chamber or like deport me from the country and view me as like inferior, inherently inferior. I don't know, man. I kind of want to say fuck those people, and I think you should say it too. And so if you scroll down here, you got to watch, see? Right up, here's a Groyper tweeting fucking Nick Fuentes.
Get back to work, Matt Walsh. Get back to work. Do not criticize Israel.
So Mike Johnson, closet case Mike Johnson, went on ABC this week, and he was asked a bunch of incisive and interesting questions. And boy, oh boy, does he shit the bed horribly. So let's start with this one. As you all know, Trump has been warmongering in the Caribbean and blowing up fishing boats. There was a bunch of Venezuelan fishing boats that got blown up. I believe 29 people have been killed, all civilians. By the way, a Trinidadian fishing boat got blown up. A Colombian fishing boat got blown up. No due process, no evidence, no nothing. It's just, hey, let's kill these people and then say we're taking out narco-terrorists. Whatever that even means. Because what does that mean? Even if those boats were packed with drugs, is the death penalty fucking instant death? Is that the punishment? Is it instant death for somebody smuggling barely enough cocaine for a single fucking bachelor party? I don't think so. But here's Mike Johnson, and listen to what he says.
We are winning. We are restoring peace through strength. That's one of our core principles.
Don't you have questions for him about Venezuela?
What about?
Don't you have questions for him about what's happening in Venezuela? We have this buildup around Venezuela. We have the targeting of these boats.
Do you care that your leader is starting another illegal war against a country that didn't attack us, even though he ran 2 times, or maybe even 3 times on, we're gonna end these stupid wars as I continue them and as I expand them, we're gonna end them. I'll say I believe in peace as I do war. Don't you have questions about that? Do you have some questions about that for him?
The targeting of these boats. I mean, you must at least have questions about this.
Targeting
I know
of the
we
boats.
have questions.
You have drug cartels bringing in fentanyl in boatloads of it that would kill potentially hundreds of thousands of Americans.
He has every right to murder those innocent people with no evidence whatsoever. He has every right to blow them up. Ready? Venezuela does not export fentanyl. So this fucking dipshit didn't even bother to do his homework for his live fest. And he goes straight to, oh, the fentanyl's the problem. This fucking fentanyl's horrible. Venezuela doesn't export fentanyl. And by the way, even when you expand it to other drugs, like I said, it's like 10% or less of the drugs that come into this country come through fucking Venezuela. Okay? It's just horse shit. These are all lies. They want to topple Maduro. They want to put in a puppet government. They want the Blackwater war criminal Eric Prince to occupy the country. And they want to steal the oil. That's what it comes down to. It's that simple.
Potentially hundreds of thousands of Americans. What we're doing is restoring.
You have no questions about how they're doing it.
No, I believe in peace through strength. I think that the president and the commander-in-chief is...
Peace through strength. In other words, when we blow up innocent fishing boats, that means we're doing peace. So when we do war, that's peace. War is peace. What does that remind you of? It's almost like that's fucking the definition of Orwellian. This was disturbing. Ken Klippenstein has been sounding the alarm about this NSPM 7 move that Trump is doing. And that's just a fancy way of saying that Trump is changing the entire aim of the federal government. And instead of, for example, protecting national security by looking into Al-Qaeda, let's say, or ISIS, now what he's saying is, no, the real problem are leftists. The real problem are liberals. Basically, anybody and everybody who disagrees with MAGA, they're either a terrorist or terrorist adjacent. So this NSPM 7 thing is honestly an attempt to criminalize disagreement with MAGA. I wish I was kidding. I'm not kidding. All right, so here we go. Let's watch some of this. Let's see what he has to say.
Lastly, sir, this is a presidential memorandum on countering domestic terrorism and organized political violence. In recent weeks, months, and years, we've seen a tremendous...
Organized political violence. Again, body count of 1 for Antifa. In its history, there is no official Antifa organization with a fucking hierarchy and a structure.
Upsurge in some highly visible, but also other acts of domestic terrorism and organized political violence being perpetrated by radical, politically motivated groups all over the country.
Look at him doing his, like, I'm a serious man face. Look at his, like, oh yeah, I'm a president, bro. I'm doing serious president stuff. You see what I'm doing? Meanwhile, you got, like, a fucking Trump regime D-lister who has to tell him what the fuck he's signing. What, you can't read?
This presidential memorandum will do is set off an administration-wide response to that, ranging from the Joint Terrorism Task Forces to other components of the Department of Justice.
Joint Terrorism Task Force to go after Antifa and BLM. Oh my God, bro. This is so crazy.
Department of Homeland Security, the Department of Treasury. We're looking at interdicting these groups, preventing them from performing acts of violence, and also looking at sources of organization and funding and support that prop them.
So in other words, we're looking at sources of funding. So, mainstream liberal organizations like Move On and Indivisible, democratic payment processors like Act Blue, they're now squarely in the crosshairs. Even though all they do is like, hey, if you're a Democratic campaign and you need funding, you use Act Blue and we process your payments. Or if you're Indivisible or Move On, you do perfectly legal protests where it literally says, be peaceful at the protest. They go, no, maybe you're funding terrorism. We're just going to pretend like you're funding terrorism and investigate you and try to make you have to spend hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars fighting this bullshit in court. This is what we're talking about here. He's going for it. He's going for it. He's going for one-party rule. I hope you understand that. I hope everybody gets that. This is not like, oh, we are sliding into authoritarianism. No, bitch, we are there.